The impact of religion and Sufism on arts in Sudan, the influence on modern poetry. Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, 1928-1994. The Shaykh of Sudanese Poets, Part 1. Whenever the phrase Shaykh of Sudanese Poets is mentioned, minds immediately turn to the distinguished poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, a radiant figure who illuminated the Sudanese literary sky for 66 years. Throughout his life, he remained a shining example of creativity and giving, a destination for scholars and researchers of both classical and colloquial Arabic literature. So, dear audience, it is very good welcoming to you in our series of documentaries that have been dedicated to trace the influence and the impact of religion and Sufism on Sudanese modern poets. And in our presence today, in our first encounter with him, the renowned and the prominent poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir. His biography informs that Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir was born in 1928 on the island of Darag in the northern part of Sudan. He is regarded as one of Sudan's most prominent and influential cultural figures, if not its foremost and most distinguished. Academic institutions knew him as a revered scholar and insightful thinker. The literary world welcomed him as an erudite, accomplished poet and refined writer, one who approached meaning with intelligence and innovation without serving connection to the deep roots of the Arabic poetic heritage. He was not merely a composer of verse, but a critic of refined taste, weaving words with precision and shaping beauty as a jeweler molds precious stones. He was among the early educators who laid the foundations of scholarly development in Sudan, earning a place of honor, a living and enduring mark on the nation's literary memory. Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir grew up in a modest religious household built on simplicity, piety, and learning, an upbringing that instilled in him a love for the Quran, knowledge, and literature. About his religious and early education, his biography writers inform that, as was customary for the sons of his generation, he was sent to the Khalwa, to the Quranic school, to learn reading and writing through the noble Quran. The young boy, Abdullah, devoted himself to studying and memorizing the Quran under the guidance of his father and in his father's Khalwa, Quranic school. His ambition to the love of reading and the memorization of the Holy Quran, however, did not end there. He moved on to other Khalwas, mastering the memorization and proper recitation of the Quran according to the Warsh narration, a tradition that remains present in many Quranic schools in northern Sudan to this day. This early immersion enriched his linguistic capacity and sharpened his mind. He later joined the Intermediate Scientific Institute in Khartoum, then the Scientific Institute of Omdurman, which he paved his path to Al-Azhar University in Cairo. In Al-Azhar, he excelled and absorbed the sciences of Arabic, Arabic language, grammar, morphology, rhetoric, and he obtained Al-Amiriya degree from the Faculty of Arabic Language at Al-Azhar, followed by a diploma in education from Ain Shams University, before returning to Sudan in 1953 to begin a luminous educational journey. However, as you follow the audience, our poet Shaykh Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir started his earliest education at his father Khalwa, and then he proceeded the journey of gaining the educational knowledge following the memorization of the Holy Quran. Following that, he moved to Khartoum and joined Khartoum Intermediate Institute, and then he joined Omdurman Scientific Institution, and from Omdurman Scientific Institution he traveled to Cairo, more specifically to Al-Azhar Sharif, where he spent time acquiring different disciplines of the Arabic language. Moreover, he went on and joined Ain Shams University, and from that respected and distinguished university, he had obtained diploma in education. And this process and journey of seeking knowledge led him back into country in 1953 to start the luminous educational journey. His professional life. In his professional life, Shaykh Abdallah Al-Bashir distinguished himself through his skill and commitment, working notably as a teacher, and he started his professional life at Al-Ahfaz Secondary School, and in this regard he taught Arabic at this respected secondary school for 10 years. Then he moved to the Ministry of Education as head of the Arabic language department. Through his passion for classroom teaching eventually led him back to his beloved profession at Wadi Sayyidina School in Omdurman. Later, he continued his work as a researcher at the National Council for Arts and Letters until his retirement in 1990. He served as president of Sudanese Literary Association and Sudanese Writers Union from 1977 to 1982, and was an active member of the Arabic and Islamic Education Teachers Association, as well as the Sudanese Radio Text Committee. His poetry was published in several Arab journals and newspapers, and he represented Sudan in esteemed cultural events, including the Islamic Education Conference in Mecca in 1982 and the Modernity Festival in Cairo 1983-1984. His major works. Our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir is among those who enrich both the Arabic and Sudanese literary heritage with a wealth of poetic works. And among his notable works are the following: studies on the poetry of Tijani Al-Bashir, more authoring work, education in Khalwa and mosque, and other authoring and Arabic language teachers in society. These authoring's, along with two poetic collections that serve as enduring proof of his genius. Abdal Bilazat, heroes without profession. Moreover, his celebrated work, ملحمة المسيد, the epic of the Sufi Masid, more specifically speak about Khalwa, that is a Quranic school. Moreover, he spoke about the praise singers and their role in the society. More specifically in this regard, speaking about the contribution of praise singing and the praise singers that they have played in Sudanese society. This branch is, by the way, is part of his noted and celebrated work, ملحمة المسيد, which at the very same time, his biography writer described this work as volumes in which knowledge meets poetry and spirit meets expression. So following his legacy in this context, I'm referring here to his works, his authoring's, his poetic collections, and in this concern, Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir left behind a rich legacy of literary articles. Moreover, in this concern, which had been published from 1959 until his passing away in 1994. And for this, forever our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir be saving his name as a timeless symbol in Sudanese literature and culture. The audience, I would like to remind you that I'm presenting Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir in our first encounter with him as part of our series of documentaries that have been dedicated to introduce the impact of religion and Sufism on the writing of modern Sudanese poets. So in our first encounter with him, just I'm presenting his biography, and following my introduction to him, his family, his education, and his work, just here I would like sharing one of his noted and celebrated poetic work, and that is his ode البحث عن بيت الشعر. So البحث عن بيت الشعر, as I told, is one of his masterpieces. And by the way, this ode and poem has its own story of composition. I would like sharing you the story as the history of the pairs of this masterpiece. So his poem البحث عن بيت من الشعر, البحث عن بيت الشعر, is among his most celebrated works. His biography writers stated that many poets attempted to emulate it, yet none reached its mastery. It is enough to say that the poem gained wide fame during a cultural event held in the heart of Cairo, attended by the Egyptian Prime Minister at that time, Dr. Fuad Muhyiddin, during the era of former President Muhammad Anwar Sadat. At that event, the program host introduced our poet in a dim, inadequate manner, unlike the elaborate, admiring introductions he had given to those poets before him. He merely said, "And now, Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir from Sudan," without even describing him as a poet. But our poet, the celebrated Shaykh Abdallah Al-Bashir, delivered a lesson never to be forgotten, beginning his poem with على حد السنة أمهيت سيفي فرفت شفرتاه كما ابتغيت. One of the Azharite, those Shaykh of the Azhar, could not restrain himself and cried out. So he is there in the very same place of the event. So he couldn't restrain himself and cried out, "Yeah, listen, he is saying that he sharpened his sword on the edge of light. Repeat it, Shaykh." The whole did not fall silent from applause and admiration, while our Shaykh, our poet, described his lively horse, its blackness tinged with the flush of red on that wondrous journey. فها أنا ذا يعادي بي صراعا بشط القيب من ريح كميت. And the words of admiration continued until the poet finished his poem. Then the Prime Minister of Egypt rose, breaking every rule of protocol and security in place, and walked to the stage to address the poet through the microphone. "You have proven to us that you are the only one among us who truly sees." As a matter of fact, and as his biography informed, that Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, throughout his life and before passing away, he lost his eyesight and turned blind. And because of this, the Prime Minister reacted in that way. "You have proven to us that you are the only one among us who truly sees." And because of his distinguished professional career, our poet Shaykh Abdallah Al-Bashir was awarded the Order of Literature from the University of Khartoum and the Golden Medal for Science, Literature and Arts from the state. In the final years of his life, he endured complications from typhoid until the illness overwhelmed him, and he passed away in 1994. His soul departed, yet his presence remained living in his verses, carried by readers, illuminating generations to come. The audience, this is just glimpses of the rich life of our poet, the celebrated Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir. And then the audience, at the end of this first part of our introducing the celebrated poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, just I would like to inform that the sources that I depend on to present his biography is an article that has been written by Kamil Abdussalam. The article entitled Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir والبحث عن بيت الشعر، المجلة العربية، مقال published on 29 of September 2019. Another source, Umar Fadlallah, his article Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir سيرة ذاتية ومقتارات من قصائده, available at the website of Dr. Umar Fadlallah. Moreover, Abdulaziz Hassan Al-Basir, his article الشاعر Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, صحيفة الرايد, on 22 of August 2010. And then my authoring book, The Impact of Sufism on Arts in Sudan by Abdallah Saleh مصورات for publication and distribution 2024 Cairo. As part of our introducing his major works, we stated that to our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, to him the credit of writing and providing the Arabic literary library with masterpieces. And we have stated that among these masterpieces is his celebrated poem, the Masid's epic, ملحمة المسيد. So the Masid's epic will be our focus in our first encounter with this renowned poet. But before going to have it in more details, here just I would like the audience sharing parts of the notion on the word Masid itself, as it has been named in Sudan. So in Sudan, the Masid is a religious institution that serves at the core of Sufi life. It stands at the spiritual center that typically includes three key components: the mosque, that is Masjid, the Quranic Khalwa for the memorization and study of the Holy Quran, in addition to other Islamic disciplines, and the taqi as the gathering place for zikr, learning and Sufi practice. In common Sudanese usage, the term Masid encompasses all these elements together: the mosque, the Quranic Khalwa, and the Sufi taqi, forming a complete spiritual complex. So in this Masid epic, the poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir seeks to illuminate the cultural and spiritual significance of Madih, praise singing in Sudanese society. So the audience, before going further, here just I would like sharing once again the thematic meanings and the major thematic meanings that our poet Abdallah Bashir, our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, tries to share, by the way, to transmit to his audience. And before going further, introducing this epic in which I will try to present part of it. That is because it is so long and it deserves and serves different types of donors. And our focus in the first place will be go on to have his impression about the role that have been played by praise singers and praise singing in the country. So through the lines that we are going to share together, our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir celebrates not only the art itself, the art of Madih, but also the praise singers, those luminous voices who have long been entrusted with perceiving and transmitting the fragrance of the prophetic seerah. They are depicted as teachers of the people, custodians of collective memory, and carriers of spiritual wisdom, who across generations have spread love for the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. Strengthened faith and nourished souls of ordinary men and women. The poem further expands this vision into a metaphorical spiritual journey. Through the rhythms of Madih, the singer transports his audience beyond time and geography, taking them on an imaginative pilgrimage to Mecca and Al-Madinah. The listeners, his audience, became travelers of the unseen, crossing deserts, seas, and sacred stations from Mina to Rauda, guided by the power of chant, rhythm, and longing. In this way, Madih becomes not merely performance, but a vessel of spiritual elevation, a means through which the Sudanese heart journeys toward the sanctified presence of the Prophet, tasting the sweetness of nearness and the light of remembrance. To the audience, this is just general readings to the lines which constitute part of the epic of Masid, or the Masid's epic, ملحمة المسيد, by our renowned poet Shaykh Al-Bashir. And then the audience, I invite you listening to the lines of the Oud in Arabic first, by the voice of my colleague and brother Dr. Al-Murtada Muhammad Abdul Mula.
ويا لأعيادها اللواتي تفيض بالذوق والحبور، وحبذا الطار إذا تداعى صداه في مسمع الدهور. هفت له القرية ابتهاجا فالطفل كالواهن الكبير، وهملج المادح الموشي بمسرح غص بالحضور. يروقهم عاشقا فيبكي القلوب بالمدمع الغزير، ويرتقي صاعدا فيلقي بهم نثارا على الأثير. وهاجهم طاره فأذكى لهم هوى راقص مثير، فزاف مثل الحمام هونا وصال كالأجدل المغير. معلم الشعب جل قدرا مهيئ الفن للفقير، سرى بهم فوق ناجيات مفزعات الحجاج صوري. تفرقوا بالقفار شعثا وجاوزوا البحر ذا الهدير، وخيموا في منى ونالوا منى وعاجوا على البشير. وحولها تيك عامرات بالشوق والطهر والبدور، سفائر المنشدين طافت بهم على مائج عطير. وأقلعت تكشف الحنايا وتزرع الحب في الصدور، وأقبلوا نحو ذي جلال مناط آمالهم وقور. وأنصتوا إذ رأوا فتاهم مهندا لاح من جفير، يختال ما بينهم بلوح مشرف ساطع السطور. تحف أقطاره نقوش فمن خفي إلى جهير، عليه سحر العمار جلي زخارف الصمغ والمغور. وموكب الزهر فيه لاقى مواكب الفن حول نور، ترى تواشيعه فراشا يرق فجرا على الغدير. وراح يشدو بمحكمات لدى بعيد المدى بصير، فمد مداته طويلا وجاد في الموقف القصير. وراض قافاته يسيرا وغنى كالشاد البهير، ولم يعاضل ولم ينازع مسالك المخرج العسير. مضى جميل القرآن سهلا أداؤه غير ما عسير، فحيت الأمهات عرضا أقيم في المشهد الأخير.
ويا لأعيادها اللواتي تفيض بالذوق والحبور، وحبذا الطار إذ تداعى صداه في مسمع الدهور. هفت له القرية ابتهاجا فالطفل كالواهن الكبير. So our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir opens this verse with the sense of festivity, times of celebration bubbling with taste, elegance, and happiness. Joy is not restrained but overflowing, as as if the day itself were pouring delight over the people. So the opening scene of the poem here establishes an atmosphere of celebration, rhythm, and communal delight. The village comes alive with the sound and movement of the tambourine, which is the central symbol of joy. So the striking of the tambourine, tar, by the way, is the invitation to the villagers together, and the sound of the tambourine itself is a declaration of festivity in which Sudanese villages in the past time were accustomed to. For once the arrival of the singers striking their tambourine, then the villagers recognize and have the knowledge that the audition night is to be experienced at that time. هفت له القرية ابتهاجا فالطفل كالواهن الكبير. So this tradition, by the way, the tradition of the breast singers in Sudanese villages in the past time is an ancient tradition. And here just I would like to inform that more than 3 episodes have been presented on the history of the arts of Madih in Sudan previously. And I have stated that since Foreign Sultanate, by the end of Foreign Sultanate, that is 1504 to 1821, this art started to develop in the country, and here the breast singers have played greatest role in the dissemination of the prophetic seerah. So the experience of those breast singers in Sudanese village, by the way, as I told, it is a message. And it is a declaration, their arrival is a declaration that people of the village will experience audition night. And for this, children as well as the eldest and the elders, women and men, boys and girls used to gather to the scene of the audition. The night audition performed by breast singers. And then our poet took us to experience with him and to experience at the same time with the breast singer, while he said وهملج المادح الموشي بمسرح قص بالحضور يروقهم عاشقا فيبكي القلوب بالمدمع الغزير ويرتقي صاعدا فيلقي بهم نثارا على الأثير وهاجهم طاره فأذكى لهم هوى راقص مثير. So the poet has been here taken as if he is an actor, and in fact he is an actor, acting and performing on the stage. His performance becomes ritual. He captivates his audience with the passion of a lover. His song does not entertain only, it moves hearts to tears, unveiling deep emotion. So the singer, as an actor and performer, by the way, took his audience, particularly those lovers, those of true sincere love to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, took them by tears for the presence of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, is there in their daily sending the blessing upon him, peace and blessing be upon our Prophet Muhammad, while the poet himself and then the breast singer himself is not more than a reminder, a disseminator to the fragrance of the Prophet's seerah. So as long as the praise singer voice ascends, then the listeners and his audience ascend with him, as if scatter like light or fragrance into the air, an image of spiritual elevation. وهاجهم طاره فأزكى لهم هوا راقص مثير. The drum, that is the tambourine, by the way, originates ecstasy. Dance like desire awakens in the crowd. Rhythm becomes a fire of collective emotion. Listen to him while he is praising the role of the praise singer among the Sudanese society. معلم الشعب جل غدرا مهيئ الفن للفقير، سرى بهم فوق ناجيات مفزعات الحجاج سور، تفرغوا بالغفار شعثا وجاوزوا البحر ذا الهدير. So as you listen here, our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, as I told, praising the magnificent role that the Sudanese praise singer that played from ancient of time in the dissemination and the spreading of the Prophet Sirah. So he is praising him when he said معلم الشعب جل قدره, and in his view Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir considered three elements in Sudan behind the spread of Islam and the strengthening of Islamic teaching in the society in the past time. Among those were the praise singers, Al-Madihun, and he further mentioned that Al-Hafizun, the memorizer of the Holy Quran, the Shaykh of the Holy Quran, in addition to Al-Fuqaha, that is the Faqih, who spread from their own side the Islamic fiqh, or with a special reference to Maliki fiqh. So those three elements to him have played greatest role in the dissemination from a side to Islamic teachings, at the same time the strengthening of the Islamic creed itself in the Sudanese society. So for this he branded and called the praise singer معلم الشعب. That is, as I told, he is really an educator, for he is a roving ambassador that disseminates, as I told, the authentic seerah of the Prophet through that beautiful words of the composers and the poet of the prophetic madih, as we have experienced them in our previous encounters with them. So معلم الشعب جل قدره مهيئ الفن للفقير. And then inside the poem here, our poet took us while the praise singer from his side took his audience to travel spiritually, visiting the sacred places, starting with the performance of Hajj in Mina, and finally with the visitation of Al-Bashir, that is our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. Into him while saying, سفائن المنشدين طافت بهم على مائج عطير وأقلعت تكشف الحنايا وتزرع الحب في الصدور. So as you listen, you experience our poet while he is denoting to the praise singer with his audience. سفائن المنشدين طافت, المنشدين, that is the chanters, طافت بهم that is travel with the audience على مائج عطير وأقلعت تكشف الحنايا وتزرع الحب في الصدور. So المنشدين and behind them the composers of the prophetic poetry and even the folk, the Sufis poetry took the minds of those audience, of those lovers with love. وأقبلوا نحو ذي جلال مناط آمالهم وقور وأنصتوا إذ رأوا فتاهم مهندا لاح من جفير. So he's still praising the role that have been played by press singers while they serve as educators to the society in that bygone days when education, when literacy, unlike our own time.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق ولا يكونوا كالذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبل فطال عليهم الأمد فقست قلوبهم وكثير منهم فاسقون.
Then the audience listening to our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir in the above four in the lines that I have presented, in which we experience with him the roles that played by the brass singers and chanters in Sudanese society. Here our poet took us to another scene, and this time he shared us describing that scene of a young boy back to his village, returned to his village from the Khalwa as a memorizer to the Holy Quran. So let us go to experience with him that scene. وأنصتوا إذ رأوا فتاهم مهندا لاح من جفيري. So the villagers once again have the experience with another important and significant element and component, and that is the memorizers of the Holy Quran. So one of those young villagers went to the Quranic Khalwa, spent time, and then back, weaponed with the memorization of the Holy Quran. And then our poet invite us to share him the scene while the villagers listening to their young boy while he's reciting the Holy Quran. وأنصتوا إذ رأوا فتاهم, and they listened silently when they saw their young man, like a polish مهندا لاح من جفيري, like a polished sword gleaming as if it emerges from its scabbard. يختال ما بينهم بلوح مشرف ساطع السطور. So يختال, so this young man walked with proudness, he walked proudly among them, bearing a wooden tablet. This wooden tablet, lofty its line shining bright, تحف أغداره نغوش فمن خفي إلى جهير. So the wooden tablet edges were surrounded by engravings ranging from subtle and delicate to bold and clear. عليه سحر العمار جل زخارف الصمق والمقور. Abundantly the evident craft magic of the carvers, ornaments of resin, polish and hollow carvings. ومواكب الزهر فيه لاغى مواكب الفن حول نوري. Procession of art circling around a radiance. ترى تواشيعه فراشا يرق فجرا على القدير. وراح يشتو the young boy. So our poet Abdallah Ashaykh Al-Bashir, after brought us to the scene of the young boy returned to his village reciting the Holy Quran, and then he went on to describe the wooden tablet, how it's decorated as a gesture and a symbol that their young boy has memorized the Holy Quran.
إلى ربك يومئذ المساق فلا صدق ولا صلى ولكن كذب وتولى.
Our poet returned to share, to experience with him the recitation and the reading of this young lad to the Holy Quran while his villagers listening to him. وراح يشتو بمحكمات لدى بعيد المدى بصيري. So he started, by the way, reading from the Holy Quran, الآية المحكم and non-ayah muhkama, and then he went on to tell us how he is skillful in his reading. فمد مداته طويلا وجاد في الموقف القصير. So this is indication of his perfectness to the memorization of the Holy Quran through excellent way, and that is tajweed. ورام قافاته يسيرا وغن كالشاد البهير. So he went further to tell us about Al-Qafat. And Al-Qafat, by the way, it is part of the Holy Quran. It used to be recited. And غن كالشاد البهير, and sang like a bright, graceful young gadal. So he indicates that he is skillful in his reading. ولم يعاضل ولم ينازع مسالك المخرج العسير. So they told an indication of his perfectness to memorization. One that never struggle in his way of reading and articulation, with special reference to the pathways of articulation. مسالك المخرج العسير مضى جميل القرآن سهلا أداؤه غير ما عسير. So describing this young boy, his beautiful recitation followed smoothly. أداؤه غير ما عسير. His performance, his recitation is free from hardship or strain. فحيت الأمهات عرضا وقيم في المشهد الأخير. So the last scene, the gathered of the mothers, the village mothers. So the mothers saluted him, this young boy, openly and closed the gathering, and the final scene of the event was set. So the audience, this is just part of the Masid's epic, and what I have done in this episode, just I quoted and I took part of the lines, more specifically the line that reflect the role and the contribution that have been played by the praise singers and chanters in the past time as dedicators to the society, spreading the Prophet's seerah. And then our poet took us to another scene, the scene of a young boy, a memorizer to the Holy Quran, who packed and returned to his village. So wept with the memorization of the Holy Quran, while in the very same scene, his villagers gathered to listen to him as they gathered before to listen to the praise singers. By this I came to the end of the episode. Till seeing you in another episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
إذا هم منها يركضون لا تركضوا وارجعوا إلى ما أترفتم فيه ومساكنكم لعلكم تسألون قالوا يا ويلنا إنا كنا ظالمين فما زالت تلك دعواهم حتى جعلناهم حصيدا خامدين.